Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. It's Sunday, which means this is the weekly recap of all of the top stories during the week of August 4th. Now, yes, everything all conveniently located in one location. We hope you enjoy it. And remember, if you liked it, go check out the original video as well. And remember, we'll see you next time, and the Constitution matters.
All right, lawyer.
And like I said, there's been new security camera footage released from a residence on King Road there in Moscow, Idaho. And it provides some insights into the movements of the vehicle linked to Bryan Kohberger prior to the November 2022 murders of the 4 University of Idaho students. Now, the video was obtained by the Idaho Statesman. Let's give him credit where credit is due. And it documents the repeated passes of a white 2015 Hyundai Elantra identified as Coberger's near the victim's home of 1122 King Road during the early morning hours. Now, court records and the footage show Kohberger, then the 27-year-old PhD student in criminal justice and criminology at the Washington State University in Pullman, drove the car past the residence 3 times between 3:30 a.m. and 3:58 a.m. Now, the car, registered in Pennsylvania and lacking a front license plates as permitted under state law at the time in Pennsylvania, entered the neighborhood heading south on King Road and turning east on Queen Road at 3:30. It appeared at 3:33 a.m., traveling west on Queen Road before turning north onto King Road and exiting the area. Now, the vehicle returned along the same route at 3:38 a.m., departing again at 3:40 a.m., and during the third pass, it entered at 3:56 a.m. and exited at 3:58 a.m. It re-entered the camera's view at 4:04 a.m., proceeding into the neighborhood. And at 4:07 a.m., the car executed a 3-point turn in the King Road cul-de-sac and headed back towards the victim's home. Well, prosecutors allege that the murders took place within a 13-minute window following this maneuver. The vehicle was not captured again until 4:20 a.m. when it departed west on Queen Road and turned north onto King Road at a high rate of speed, as detailed in the probable cause affidavit that was support for Kohberger's arrest. Now, the footage also recorded audio elements beginning at 4:17 a.m., including sound resembling voices or a whimper, followed by a loud thug. Concurrently, a dog barked repeatedly for nearly 15 minutes. The camera, positioned fewer than 50 feet from the west wall of the victim's Zana Kernodle's second-floor bedroom, captured these details until the video ends at 4:30 a.m. Now, 5 days after the incident, obviously, Kohberger registered his vehicle in Washington and replaced his license plates, as noted by the lead investigator, Corporal Brett Payne. The victims were University of Idaho undergraduate students Madison Mogan, Kaylee Gonzalez, Zana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin, Kernodle's boyfriend, who was staying overnight as well there. Now, all 4 resided or were present at the home and were fatally stabbed with a large fixed-blade knife, sustaining multiple wounds. That's right, the K-bar. I've got mine after 37 years. Bryan Kohberger lost his within matters of months. Kohberger, now 30, obviously pled guilty in July to the 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of felony burglary to avoid the death penalty. He received 4 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole 2 weeks later, and part of his plea deal requires that he waive any right to an appeal or reconsideration or anything post-conviction. So that means it's done, it's final, it's over. So everyone stops saying, oh, I hear he's going to appeal. He's not going to appeal. Otherwise, he starts all over again. And guess what? They'd probably still be able to use his guilty plea against him. That would be quite silly, wouldn't it? Neither the investigators nor the prosecutors have ever been able to establish a motive or a prior connection between Kohberger and any of the victims. And he's currently incarcerated at the Idaho Maximum Security Institution in South Institution, which is south of Boise, Idaho. It's going to be interesting, ladies and gentlemen, as the information comes out slowly or quickly, depending on the release and how quickly it's been done, as well as the sealed documents. which brings us to our next story as it relates to Bryan Kohberger. Steve Gonsalves, father of slain University of Idaho student Kaylee Gonsalves, has expressed that he and the families of the other victims, Madison Mogen, Ethan Chapin, and Xana Kernodle, opposed the release of the crime scene photographs related to the murders committed by Coberger. Now, in an interview that he gave to News Nation, Gonsalves indicated that the families have communicated this position to the prosecution, emphasizing their lack of interest in making such images public. Well, the families remain apprehensive about the potential leakage of these photographs, noting that certain details from the case have been disclosed prematurely since the investigation began. And Gonsalves highlighted the risk of awakening to find the images broadcast on television and rejected calls for their release, stating that the victims deserve dignity and such exposure is unacceptable. Judge Stephen Hippler, who was overseeing the case, has announced plans to review the unsealing of evidence, including photographs of the deceased victims, which were part of the prosecution's presentation during Kohberger's sentencing. Now, the judicial order specifies additional sealed documents for consideration, such as the guilty plea advisory form submitted by Kohberger, a list of potential trial witnesses, and the defense materials regarding possible alternative perpetrators. So Judge Hippler has allocated 14 days for the prosecutors and the defense attorneys to file objections to the release of any specific records. Now, parties advocating for continued sealing must provide detailed and a legal basis explaining why redaction would not suffice as an alternative. Well, the process of unsealing documents involves weighing the public's right to access against the necessity of ongoing confidentiality, particularly in sensitive matters. Now, in the judicial systems, records are presumed public unless compelling reasons justify sealing, with considerations including the impact on public confidence in transparencies. Now, victims' photographs in cases involving serious crimes carry significant privacy implications, differing in sensitivity from items like witness lists. So those seeking to maintain the seal bear the responsibility to substantiate their request. And the judge has indicated that this evaluation will require substantial time extending beyond days or weeks and has called for patience on everybody. Now, Gonsalves noted that the families intend to safeguard the crime scene photographs and autopsy reports from disclosure. He further mentioned a lack of direct communication from the prosecutor's office following the plea deal, aside from receiving death certificates and autopsy documents requiring the families to rely on official channels for updates, often learning of developments simultaneously with the public. So this raises very interesting issues. Obviously, public's right to know, presumed to be public, and particularly if it's been filed. If it's in the court records, we should be able to get access to it, except for very limited circumstances. Now, I'm thinking of most autopsies. Most autopsies are really quite boring, okay? They don't usually include the photographs. That's separate that you get in the file. But in this particular case, and I completely understand with the victims' families that they do not want to see autopsy photos, crime scene photos of their loved ones deceased. It's rather gruesome. I have no doubt. And if you've ever done a stabbing case, usually there's a lot of blood, and it's just it's a mess. It's ugly. Okay. But when I say that people have a right to know, and there's a presumption that these are public records and public information, we should be able to see this. And not because I'm like, oh, great, I want to see autopsy photos. Listen, I've seen more autopsy photos than most people have in their lifetime, and I could eat my lunch looking at autopsy photos. It doesn't bother me, but it could be disturbing to other people. And if they were in fact released, then that would obviously, people shouldn't go look at them. If they don't want to see that, then that's fine. But I think that there's still a way that they can be released with the appropriate redactions, and maybe to even say this isn't the particular person. But the reality of it is people need to see what evil can do and what depravity one human being can have to do horrible things to another person. And like I said, I don't mean this for some spectacle or to want to embarrass the families or anything along those lines. But, for so many people, they want to run around in this little fairy tale world that the world is good and happy and everybody just needs to sing Kumbaya and we'll all just get along. And I think maybe the sooner people realize that true evil actually does exist in the world, it'll break people out of this little bubble that somehow they think that everything's lollipops and rainbows and everything's just happy world. It's not. And so that's why I think that there should be public disclosure. Yes, it should probably be limited, but once it gets out there. But hey, listen, you can go see just about anything on the internet. I think we can handle it. And if you don't want to look at it, then you don't have to look at it. I think we should err on the side of disclosure for the public to know what evil looks like and what he did, by his own words. And so for all the pro Kohbergers out there, okay, he pled guilty. So for all the people out there who say, oh, I know he's guilty, but the video's kind of fuzzy, he must be innocent, we got this for you. Probably do this on a more regular basis. Is this a pro Coberger person? Not sure. All right.
That video, you can't even prove it's Bryan's car. The whole thing is a setup. I'm a pro burger.
Next on the docket, the quadruple murder suspect, Austin Drummond, has been captured. Now, Austin Drummond, accused of allegedly killing 4 and dumping their baby girl on a front lawn. That's right. So in a display of remarkable foresight, Austin Robert Drummond, the 28-year-old Tennessee resident accused of orchestrating a quadruple homicide, has finally been apprehended following a leisurely 7-day evasion that undoubtedly kept authorities on their toes. So on July 29th, in the quaint town of Tiptonville, Drummond allegedly dispatched Adrian Williams, who is 20 years old, James Matthew Wilson, Courtney Rose, who is 38, Brandon Wilson, all with the precision one might expect from someone freshly liberated from a 13-year stint in prison for armed robbery, having been released just in September of last year. Though unrelated by blood, Drummond had integrated himself into the family circle by dating one of Rose's sister, a connection that apparently blossomed into something far less endearing. Now, in a particularly thoughtful gesture, he is said to have abandoned the infant daughter of Williams and Wilson on a stranger's lawn in Tigret, some 40 miles from the crime scene, ensuring the child a front row seat to the ensuing chaos. Well, the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, ever the picture of efficiency, captured Drummond on Tuesday morning without disclosing the exact location, though a released photograph depicts him drenched and disheveled in what appears to be a forested hideout, as if Mother Nature herself had conspired to highlight his predicament. Prior to this, he was later observed on Sunday evening in Jacksonville, approximately 70 miles distant, clad in camouflage and toting a rifle, prompting police to issue warnings about exercising extreme caution around this paragon of armed and dangerous subtlety. Authorities noted that Drummond might have altered his appearance during his escapade, and indeed, the capture image reveals a freshly shaved goatee, a bold stylistic choice compared to his previous mugshot, and the saga began when law enforcement responded to reports of an abandoned baby in a car seat, initially suspecting Rose, Williams, and Wilson of child endangerment, a hypothesis that dissolved into horror upon discovering the 4 victims' bodies riddled with gunshot wounds in a wooded area back in Tiptonville. Well, Drummond emerged as the primary suspect 2 days later on July 31st, facing charges of first-degree murder, kidnapping, and unlawful possession of a firearm, charges that seem almost quaint given his ongoing bond for an attempted murder committed during his prior incarceration. Now, rewards totaling up to $30,000 were offered for tips leading to his arrest, a sum that evidently motivated the public just enough. In a twist that underscores the depth in human loyalty, 3 individuals, Dara Sanders, Tanaka Brown, and Giovanni Thomas, were detained during the manhunt for allegedly aiding Drummond as accessories after the fact to first-degree murder, though details of their benevolent assistance remains shrouded in mystery. Now, the motive for this familial annihilation eludes investigators despite Drummond's familiarity with the victims. He had reportedly been nothing short of amazing to the family and their children during his romantic involvement, according to a relative's social media post. a sentiment that now rings, well, with quite exquisite irony. Now, Adriana and James were the parents of the abandoned infant. Courtney served as the maternal grandmother, and Braden was Adriana's younger sibling, completing a portrait of domestic devastation that defies easy explanation. Now, we will bring you updates on this. We got to know why. I mean, does it seem like everything's being done in 3s and 4s lately when it comes to killing somebody? Or just stop at 1? Unbelievable. Horrific, tragic, you name it. But by gosh, what are people doing these days? Next on the docket, Luigi Mangione. Is he getting some special treatment because he gets a laptop? So obviously, Luigi Mangione, the man accused of assassinating United Healthcare CEO Bryan Thompson, has been authorized to utilize a laptop while detained in anticipation of his forthcoming trial. Now, Mangione will receive a laptop configured by federal authorities, available for his use 7 days a week between the hours of 8 a.m. and 4 p.m. And this device will lack internet connectivity or wireless capabilities and will contain only case-specific material, such as documents and videos supplied by the prosecution to the defense team. Now, on Monday, U.S. District Court Judge Margaret Garnett issued the order instructing the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn to facilitate the secure provision of this laptop. Now, Mangione's legal representatives asserted that such access is essential for the defendant to effectively ready himself for trial and participate in his defense strategy. So Mangione obviously faces the charges of the fatal shooting of Bryan Thompson, the 50-year-old parent of 2 children who the assassination took place outside a hotel in Manhattan during a professional event in December of 2024. Now, following a 5-day manhunt, law enforcement apprehended Mangione at a fast food restaurant, specifically McDonald's, in Altoona, Pennsylvania, where they recovered a red notebook containing entries that illuminate potential motivation for the alleged assassination. Now, the notebook includes deliberations on perceived shortcomings in the actions of Theodore Kaczynski, known as the Unabomber, during his activities from 1978 to 1995, and entry dated August 15th, 2024, approximately 4 months prior to the incident, expressing assurances in the planned course of action and deeming it appropriate and defensible. It further notes that delays in execution permitted additional research into United Healthcare, identifying the insurance sector as an ideal focus due to its alignment with certain criteria that he had. A subsequent notation from October 10th, 2024, indicates a timeline of 1.5 months remaining until the event, characterizing participants in the healthcare field as exploitive entities akin to organized crime figures. The entries also portray United Healthcare's December gathering as a significant opportunity that exemplifies broader deficiencies within the healthcare framework. Now, Mangione has submitted a plea of not guilty to all charges filed in both state and federal courts concerning the homicides, and should a conviction occur on the federal counts, prosecutors have indicated their intention to request capital punishment, the death penalty, ladies and gentlemen. So this issue comes up all the time, particularly in federal court, and particularly if there are protective orders. You have to either A, go review all the discovery individually with the client, or send a paralegal or an investigator so they can go through and review the thousands and thousands and thousands of pages that is becoming more and more frequent in every case. With digital technology, the media files are huge. It used to be if you had something that was like 1 terabyte, that was, oh my gosh, it's so huge, we can't imagine it. Now we get requests with all the video evidence that we have to submit hard drives to the district attorney's or United States Attorney's Office. We're talking 4 or 5 terabytes of information, which could be hundreds of thousands of pages and hours of video. And frankly, there's just not enough time to do it. A lot of facilities never used to allow what Mangione gets as his own computer. As you may remember, Sean Combs wanted access to his information, and the judge denied such a request. Normally, though, these laptops, if they're granted, are kept under scrutiny by the Bureau of Prisons from the United States Marshals. They're basically checked out, they're monitored. You can't do anything, but it saves the attorneys time and money if the defendant can actually go through his discovery on his own and help in his defense. Is it special treatment? A little bit. But in today's world, it's just common sense. Now, a lot of people in custody, they have tablets that they check in. They can download videos, movies. They can email from their little laptops that they have, no longer writing old letters. Now, that's also a bad thing as well for the defense, because guess what? You have no expectation of privacy in jail, and unless that's a letter to the attorney, there's no privilege. So when you're writing, mama at home saying, oh, I did bad things, guess what? The DA usually gets a copy of that as well. So I don't know. Luigi Mangione, presumption of innocence. We'll see where it goes. My guess is there's going to be a plea before we get to trial, but hey, we'll find out if I'm wrong. We have new photos that were released from the Idaho Moscow Police Department, and let's take a look at them, ladies and gentlemen. So photographs from the interior of the residence at 1122 King Road in Moscow, Idaho, rhymes with Costco, where 4 University of Idaho students were fatally stabbed, have been disclosed to the public for the first time. Now, these images, numbering more than 200 and obtained from local law enforcement, illustrate the aftermath of the violent incident that occurred on November 13th of 2022. They were made available following the sentencing of Bryan Kohberger, obviously the man that pled guilty, waived all his appellate rights, and is now a convicted murderer and received 4 multiple consecutive life sentences. Oh, and did I mention he pled guilty? There will be no appeal. Have I mentioned that before? Anyway, the images provide a detailed view of the crime scene, highlighting evidence of the attack. One photograph captures a handprint on a window in one of the rooms, pressed against the glass in a manner suggestive of contact. Obviously, bloodstains are evident on the white painted doors throughout the house, indicating the extent of the violence. Now, several photographs depict the bedrooms where the victims were discovered, and in the 3rd floor room belonging to Madison Mogan, where she and her friend Kaylee Gonzalez, both 21 at the time, were attacked while asleep in bed. Now, these images show the space as it was left post-incident. A separate image reveals a bed covered with a pink blanket, a significant portion obscured to preserve sensitivity. Another view taken from the doorway of a student room displays scattered shoes and clothing on the wooded floor, presenting an ordinary living environment without immediate signs of a tragedy that had taken place in the house. Additional interior details are captured in the photographs. A sign reading "Good Vibes" is visible in the living room area, positioned near the staircase leading to the upper floors. Now, the University of Idaho lanyards are shown hanging by the staircase amid remnants of what appears to have been a recent gathering or a party, like the beer pong tables. Now, in the kitchen on the 2nd floor, a sliding door is photographed partially open, consistent with the entry and exit points used by Coberger. Now, the 2nd floor bedroom, where Xana Kernodle and Ethan Chapin, both 20, were killed, is also documented. Images illustrate the room's layout, including the bed where Chapin's body was found and the floor area where Kernodle was located, bearing marks of a struggle. Now, bloodstains on the nearby door further emphasize the scene's severity and brutality. One photograph provides an interior view of the bedroom with wall-mounted photographs that have been blurred by police for privacy reasons. Another focuses on the 3rd floor room associated with Mogan and Gonzalez, offering insight into the space where they are found. Now, these photographs, released after the lifting of the court-imposed restrictions on case-related materials, complement other evidence such as surveillance footage and forensic findings, and they underscore the targeted nature of the intrusion, during which Kohberger inflicted multiple stab wounds on the victims. While the images serve as a visual record of the scene, they do not resolve outstanding questions regarding any motive or prior connections between the perpetrator, Kohberger, and the victims. Now, like I mentioned, Kohberger is serving multiple life without the possibility of parole sentences, plus another 10 years on top of that at the Idaho Maximum Security Institution. Take a look at these, ladies and gentlemen. It just shows you, I think it's a representation of obviously what has taken place, reminds you that, but it also shows you how quickly life can change. None of those victims, none of those college students that night didn't think they were going to get up the following day and go about their day, finish their schooling, graduate, and those photographs show that everything is just captured in time that day. I think what's interesting is the stairwell where apparently officers had to turn to go up it, and so would have Kohberger, but yet not a single cup on the beer pong table were moved or bumped in any way. And yet he was walking around there stealthily. But take a look at that house. How long do you think it would take you to walk through that house? 30 seconds to get upstairs? Maybe if you're taking your time and being careful in the dark. It was all possible. He did it. Everybody knows it. And if you think otherwise, well, there's probably nothing we can do to convince you.